Ah yes, fodder. Usually meant to bolster an enemy account in an area or meant to be a threat in swarms, fodder can be no joke, especially when they surround a player and ensnare them in an impossibly difficult situation to escape. In this video, we'll be going over how fodder has progressed as an archetype through Dark Souls 1, 3, and Elden Ring. And starting off, we'll go with some really annoying and persistent enemies in Dark Souls 1. For the fodder of choice, I have to select none other than the rats. While they aren't difficult to deal with alone, in a group they can be a real struggle, even inflicting with poison, and have ended many lives of players in the depths. Sewer rats are often found in groups. Their AI are classified by players as particularly annoying, waiting until you back off to stunlock you in infinite loops and bring in bigger enemies who, much like school teachers in the 1950s, will beat you until you behave. Sewer rats in this game embody the fodder archetype as they are particularly annoying, dealing little damage and having little health, yet still being one of the more formidable Dark Souls 1 enemies, and their poison is no joke, only really being a step down from straight toxic in Dark Souls 1. They're also fairly class friendly, in the sense of being equally annoying for each class aside from pyromancers, who are just insanely broken in general. They're hard for melee because even if you kill one with your big swing, you leave a big opening for the rest to come swoop you in and beat you down. Mages also have a hard time using their spells in the small corridors of the depths, usually having to rely on their piddly melee. And keeping this rat theme for Dark Souls 3, we have this game's interpretation of fodder, also the rat. Rats in Dark Souls 3 are often referenced by the community as being the single most annoying creature in the game, and even overpowered in some scenarios. They quickly surround players, dealing massive damage and also inflicting poison, killing you pretty quickly, and they don't even need to get the big guys out to take you down. They got it in small groups of 1 to 2. The AI for rats in this game are often regarded as smart. They find you, chase you down, and swarm you when you try and run away. These rats are often regarded as something you can't really just run past like most enemies in Souls-like games. They are, unlike the others, as although they don't have a ton of health, in fact they have very little, they do so much damage with their poison and just raw power that they're formidable in even groups of 1 to 2, rather than 5 to 6 in the other games. These rats are also similarly difficult for each class, but rather than being annoying due to packs or tight corners, they're difficult to each class because they're just so inherently difficult in general. For melee, have fun getting stunlocked while you try and get out your big bonk attacks. And for mages, have fun getting stunlocked while you try and cast some magic. These rats are honestly just pure nightmare fuel. And talking about nightmare fuel, let's talk about the complete opposite of pure nightmare fuel. Rats of Elden Ring. These are often regarded as the easiest out of the 3 games. While they come in large packs, they're so much slower than the previous titles and give you way more opportunities to attack. They also don't have the iconic poison that the first 2 have. Their AI seems more similar to the Dark Souls 1 AI rather than 3, being way less straight up vicious than the Dark Souls 3 rats, and they rely on large packs to take the enemy down. They also come in more variety, however. Madness rats are a completely new feature, often regarded as more annoying than regular rats due to their ability to give the player madness, which, unlike poison, doesn't do tick damage, rather just straight up massive amounts of damage when the buildup is full, also stunning the player on the ground for a couple of seconds. These rats, though, still aren't nearly as bad as Dark Souls 3 rats as far as the Souls community views them. They also aren't much of a threat for any class, really. For bonk builds, they're just so incredibly passive that you can straight up slay them in front of each other, and none of the rest will punish you for killing their brother. For mages, the less aggression makes it easy to take them out all at once with some powerful AoE attacks. So yeah, they're really lackluster compared to the others. And bringing this to a conclusion, how did fodder evolve over the series, and when was it done best? Fodder in the original game was slow and more predictable, relying on bigger enemies to come trotting in while they kept you busy. Fodder then, in Dark Souls 3, switched to being incredibly aggressive, and didn't need a swarm of 5 or more to take you down. 2 of them was enough to clear most players, and they were a fearful sight for everyone, no matter how many there were. Elden Ring took Fodder back to the basics, instead of relying on aggressiveness, relying on pure numbers, having much more variety, but just being so passive that you can just straight up ignore them altogether in most scenarios. So, when was Fodder done best? For me, it was Dark Souls 1. And even though I say this, a lot of people will think I'm biased, and I played Dark Souls 1 the last out of the trio, so it's not nostalgia. And while Fodder was bigger and badder in Dark Souls 3, I would say it honestly bordered into being the Glass Cannon archetype. I know some people will say, why did he pick rats then? As it's not just rats though. Rather, the archetype as a whole was a little faded in this installment in my eyes. Fodder is meant to be something that the player can keep fighting and will take up more time for the player, while bigger things get the time to move over since they're often slower, but once they come in they'll wreck you, and the rats did a good job whittling you down and buying time for their bigger friends. So that is going to be the end of this video. I am going to be making more of these though. I have 5 more archetypes that I want to go over, and then I'll come over and make an overarching video of all of them. So let me know what you thought. Leave a like if you liked this video, subscribe if you want to see the rest of the archetypes done, and that's going to be the end of this video. See you guys.